Hi. So, I was just watching back a little bit of the videos from the France trip. Coming down through France and all that, and it was amazing, and I can see how I've progressed and how I'm stronger now than I was. I've managed to get a lot stronger and into the rhythm of living like this. Living out in the world. It's like the difficulties become easier over time, and I suppose I just wanted to sort of reflect on that a little bit, because yeah, I mean the worst days are when like it's raining and you're cold, and I mean rain's the main thing really. Even cold you can sort of deal with, but when it rains, it's like, and you've not got your tent up. It's like hanging around in town, and it could be like a whole day of just hanging around, waiting for it to stop so you can put your tent up. And I really recommend just going bolting for it, like as soon as the rain stops, bolt for it, go put your tent up as quick as possible, But I've had a couple of times where I've been putting it up and it starts raining, and I'm like, God, damn, like you're getting wet in the base of the inside the tent's getting wet, because my tent is it's a mosquito net, and then the sheet over the top, which I like because, for one, I like fresh air coming through, which is really cool. I need fresh air, and it's part of my thing. I need to be able to breathe deeply, and it's healthy for you, along with eating well and all the other things I explain in a lot of my videos, more on the Awakening Earth sort of and Radiant Vitality sort of channels, which you can see in the link below. So there's that plus about it. There's a plus that you don't get all the creatures in, and that it's just less hassle. You don't have to worry about your food. I have my food in a little bag that goes on the back of my bike, and most of my food's in that, with my knife and my fork and that. So in there, everything is that I need. And yeah, there's a rhythm of placement where I put things in my tent at night. There's certain things go in certain places. There's some order. I mean, I'm not a very organised sort of person really, but I've managed to find some order. Yeah, so I mean, the plus with this sort of tent is, like I say, that airflow, and but if if it rains or whatever, then before you put the tent up, then you're going to get watering, sort of thing. I wanted to say about, like, how good, the good things about, pros and cons about living like this, and how I feel about it. Okay, so I feel a lot stronger now, and I feel very clear, and like, my energy's good. I mean, I just ate a load of chocolate actually before, so I'm a bit like whatever, but what we're talking about is overall, over the month or whatever it's been, I'd say that my energy is better, but one of the main things, there's a couple of main things that are most important, and the main thing is literally sleep. You've got to get your rest in, because you lose your rest, you lose your sleep, and then which I need to sleep in a minute actually, so I'm going to try and keep this short, but you lose your sleep, and things can go out of control, or you make silly decisions, like the next day you buy rubbish food, or you forget, oh, it's going to be a Sunday tomorrow and the shops are shut, so things like that. You got to keep always on the ball, but that's a good thing, because there's too much numbing out in our culture, and living like this, like you're very present and aware, the cycling that you're doing, you're having to engage and be in life, you're breathing the fresh air, you're getting the sunlight, you're becoming full of vitality and life, so all of that's very helpful. It's obviously it's feasible to go to sleep, around 9 or whatever when it gets dark. It's about 12 now, so I really need to get to sleep. I was just editing some video footage of the France part of this trip, which comes to about an hour now. I'll put some backing music and stuff, and then maybe comment a bit over it, and then upload that. So sleep's not one of the number one things. Eating well definitely helps, and eating rubbish is just gonna, not really. It might give you physically what you need on a physical calorie level. Eating things like cheese and bread and all that, but over time it's better to lean more towards like the nutrient dense veg and fruits. Even though there's weight in it, I've found that it's definitely worth doing it. Definitely not totally relying at least on manufactured foods, because they basically don't serve the body. They don't serve your overall energy and well-being on multitude of levels. Yes, physically to a degree, but even then, the organs are stressed with these foods, and you don't want to stress your organs. You want your body system to be at ease, and of course, when you sleep, that is the time when your body is doing its work to repair itself, to integrate and that. So, rest is absolutely essential. I should be resting more really in the day, but I haven't been as much, But I do sort of stop here and there. You'll find a bench or something. You'll find a certain spot that feels really good. A bench maybe for me, like where there's not as many people, so I don't have to be bothered about people or traffic noise or whatever it is that's annoying you, because things will annoy you, and sit there, and I'll get these like jars of chickpeas, like from Lidl's and that, and I'll eat some of them out of the jar, or have two jars, and I'll put some chickpeas in, and then cut up some onion, cut up some avocado, to give it something interesting. Maybe get some olive paste, like olives that have been ground down, and that, and maybe there's a bit of salt in there, so it kind of tastes nice, and put that with chickpeas or with lentils or something, and make sure you get enough proper veg in there, like tomatoes obviously give stuff flavor, so I think this is very sensible. Like I stay away from like the E numbers and all that, which a lot of the chickpeas do have E numbers in, and these very carbohydrate laden foods. There's of course rye bread and things like that. So I'm trying to give you possibilities here of foods which don't mess our mind up as much, and our emotions and our consciousness. And if you're on a spiritual wavelength, you want to stay more in tune with your spirit, rather than just totally lost in crap in your mind, and having mood swings from things like too much sugar and caffeine overload and whatever. And I know it's tempting to just have that stuff a lot. It's tempting to have a lot of caffeine and things when you're traveling, and just go into like restaurants all the time. I mean, for one, like, you're wasting more money doing that, and you can live simply and cheaply carrying your bits of veg around, and because you get a nice mixture of foods, you don't feel so hungry, because you're getting what you actually need, whereas I've noticed with things like bread, and pasta, and general manufactured foods, that you never feel fulfilled. You always, the body is not actually getting everything it needs, so you keep trying to eat more of it, and you're not getting what you need. So you might think it's cheaper, but overall, because you don't feel fulfilled, you're still eating more, sort of thing. I'm managing to ride quite a bit and not eat things like cheese and bread and very sugary things, but instead switch it towards the things like the mangoes, oranges, bananas. Yeah, I'm getting some carbohydrates. I'm getting chickpeas and lentils and that sort of stuff, but not overdoing that, because actually sometimes when you have too many carbs, like, you start feeling tired. You start feeling like, flipping heck, I've not got the energy to actually ride. So I know it sounds funny, but it's not always the idea of eating a lot. There are times when you need to eat more, but a lot of the time I found that overeating, having a big meal just buggers you up for being able to cycle far. Because obviously all your energy is going into your digestion. So you want to take it easy with that. Like eating some nuts here and there, and then having like a bit of fruit with it or something. Banana, for instance, banana with almonds, goes quite well. Or having a banana and having some almonds. So there's a bit of balance there. And another thing I found was like dried fruits and that, like, because they're so intense, the sugar's so intense on the body, it's rarely needed. It's on those certain days you might need an intense bout of sugar. And I have found, like, I've had like chocolate or whatever at times, but chocolate that's like got no E numbers in, no stuff that messes with your head, just E numbers that are like, general E numbers are just not good for the human body. And we want the human body to work optimally, for all reasons. But so there's been the odd times where like intense sugar is kind of like needed, but generally we're talking about keeping yourself stable. So you want high water content foods, which keep you hydrated and more balanced. So I mean, I'll have things like bits of celery or whatever, celery around, even though I know celery's everything, but I'll cut up bits of that and put it in with chickpeas and all that. So you're talking about having a vitality, life and vitality, and while you're on the road, you really want that. Like, it just makes the whole thing more enjoyable, because you feel good inside yourself. So when you're traveling, you're experiencing everything more fully. Your mind is taking in more around you because you feel more aware rather than dumbed down, because as we know, the general manufactured foods do dumb us down. They don't serve the soul, they don't serve the body. They're designed with manipulation as their agenda. So it's like like, that stuff isn't healthy for us. The natural foods from nature serve us on multiple levels, especially the soul, and we were designed to take that in. So when we have that stuff, and then we're getting sunshine, we're getting fresh air, in some ways we become extremely healthy, and we don't have to be like the homeless people, for instance, who they don't have any money or any income. I mean, for me, it's like playing guitar and that. Playing guitar on the streets to get my money is the way, and that will get me enough for food. And then the issue is trying to save a little bit for like a hostel or whatever, to get showers and that, once a week, because just reach the point where you start feeling so smelly and yucky that it's like it's doing your head in, basically. It's just driving you nuts, like, just feeling so yucky, and that's not a fun thing. So that's one of the cons. The cons are, like, on a wet day it's pretty rubbish. You might want to stay in the tent, or you might want to just decide, right, I'll have to stay in town and do stuff in town. And it's very difficult to put your tent up when it's raining and you're just going to get everything wet. So you do not want to get wet. That's the other point. Just you don't want to get wet, because as soon as that damp soaks into your clothes and then it gets cold, you really feel the cold. So that was one of the things I really learned, quite early on, was like, shit, this I don't want to do this. I don't want to get damp. It's not sensible. So if it rains and you get stranded in town, just wait until that rain drops off. Sometimes what I do is like I hop from one place to the next, one sheltered place to the next sheltered place, get a little bit closer to my destination. The rain stops again, ride a bit further, find a spot to stop until the rain stops again, and then go on, which is what I had to do over the Pyrenees mountains, because it was just like insane rain. It kept on raining and raining, but at least it came in waves, which meant I could carry on at different points. So you really learn to work with the weather and really sense the weather, which is why, again, it links in with the healthy eating, because the healthy eating means that we are more perceptive to our environment rather than our mind and everything being dumbed down into this, and I know it's easy to want to eat those other things because a lot of people do, because of stress. It's like in high-paced society that we live in, this is why people are so crazy on the food, and the alcohol and the cigarettes and the coffee and all that. The stimulation is to give you an artificial energy external of yourself, and I know we all need the energy, but there's a certain level of energy within us anyway. I don't know what you call that, your spirit, or just the energy that you have. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that with a lot of what we're taking into our system with foods these days, it's about artificially influencing and sort of like overpowering our system with, say, a mood enhancer to take us out of where we're actually at, but you can't do that, like, if I mean, you can if you want, but it's not sustainable. If you, for instance, have grief or sadness in your system, and every time you feel that over the years, you continually, take a drug, or you self-medicate, or you smoke, or whatever, what you're doing is you're suppressing and pushing down that energy, so it takes a lot of energy to actually deny what's inside us, So as we start eating clearer, yes, we feel more sensitive. We feel more sensitive to everything around us, like the changes in the weather. We're more alert. The mind is working clearer, faster. Our thoughts are clearer. We feel more what we feel, so we're more sensitive. And although that may seem a negative thing, it's actually a very positive thing, because we need to feel sensitive. We need to feel our senses, because they tell us which situations are right for us and which situations are wrong. So for me, it would be like, don't go that way today, actually go this way. Or today, stay with the tent, actually sleep in longer. Or this Sunday, I think, and it's not a thought thing, it's just a sense thing. It's not time to move on yet, no, stay. Or now is the time to eat. Now's the time. My body's saying eat now, or my body's saying stop now. So basically, in the modern world, our answer to everything is just, eat, do whatever to artificially stimulate ourselves, to give us the energy to do stuff. The way I've been living with it is more about, eat clear, be more sensitive to what our intuition and our gut instinct is telling us, and follow that instead. And that way we know truly, okay, I'm getting tired now. It's time to wrap it up. It's time to stop. It's time to find somewhere to sleep for the night, So I really believe in that, that sensitivity that comes with all that. And I talk a lot about the food and, having radiant health in my blog, Radiant Vitality, which you can see below, which also talks about healing and spirituality and all that, So that was the other thing about, like, setting the tent up early. There's times where you want to set up early because, it can be stressful, the riding, especially when you've been riding all day, and it's easy to not realize that your body really, really wants to rest, and it's not enough just to like go to sleep at 10 at night and then get your 6 to 8 hours and then wake up. It's almost like the body might need 2 or 3 hours rest before you sleep, of wind down time, so that you've already wound down, and then when you're sleeping, your dreams and that the theta, whatever beta, theta, whatever delta states, whatever it is you go into, is more. You're utilizing your sleep better because you've already rested pre-sleeping. So there's that element of it as well. There's also the fact that, of course, if you set up early, then you set up before it gets dark, and you can see what you're doing. You don't waste power with your head torch and that, depending on how much power you get, or whether you go to hostels and that, to get your power, or whether you've got solar panel or whatever. I mean, I just rely pretty much on my solar panels, but I'd like to up it to like getting a hostel once a week soon, just to like really charge things and get showers and that, and whatever. So I'm just trying to make sure I cover as much stuff as I can. So that's, obviously working with nature and going with nature's rhythms, which I'm not doing right now because it's like 12 o'clock now. But I mean, I'll wake up like 9 or something, so I'll probably fall asleep within an hour or something. For me, like, going to sleep later than 1, you feel knackered the next day, sort of thing. So it's nice to be able to see where you're setting up, without needing to have the head torch on, Tonight I didn't quite manage that, but so, it's nice to, time catches up on you, and like, you can be in the city, like, or the town's too long and not realize, like the sun's going down, time to leave. I mean, it's all things you learn, I suppose, on the journey, but what I wanted to say in this video is that I'm starting to actually get used to this, and it was like struggling in the beginning in this way of life. It was like, I was riding too much, but I mean, I wanted to get warm, and I was coming down through Calais in like totally the wrong time of the year, and it's cold, and I wanted to get south, so I was like really pressuring myself with all this riding. And in the end, I sort of realised, well, I didn't come out here to pressure myself. I came out here on a spiritual quest to find myself. So I thought, bugger it, I'm going to spend a bit more money on buses and public transport and that, and that was cool because it's taken the pressure off a bit more, and I've not had to eat so much. So it's nice to kind of take it easy, and not need to stress yourself out too much, depending on why you come out, and what kind of person you are, I suppose. Another thing's like noise and that, and I tend to get away from the towns and the cities, which is why I'm saying about getting out before the sun goes down, so that, you've found somewhere nice to sleep for the night. There's nothing better than getting in your tent and being like, it's quiet, there's no like loads of animals barking or, factory noise going on. You can't always get perfect, and that's the point as well. You can't always get perfect, so it's like, make the most of those days when things are good. Make the most of when you can rest, because you do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, it could be crazy gusts of wind like there was on the Pyrenees, and it was like, I mean, a lot of people aren't like me. Like, they go through life just like, what's the word, with the harshness of life, just dealing with it, just deal with it. But because I'm on a spiritual path, it's like I'm not doing it like that. I'm more about, okay, let's try and create balance, let's try and live in a way which is more gentle, rather than needing to totally bug yourself up, and I know it's kind of cool, and it's like, yeah, I did this hardcore thing, I went over the Pyrenees and I did whatever, and it was really tough and I'm really strong. But it's like, I could have gone down that path of like, yeah, I'm just going to cycle the whole thing, you know, I'm going to blitz it and like, you know, prove a point, you know, that I'm doing this courageous thing, you know. And in a way, like, I had to realize, look, that's not truly me. I'm not here to do a show about this, you know. I'm here to be me and be authentic, you know, because that's my kind of spiritual path. It's like I'm not traveling, I'm not doing this thing, you know, for like, hey, look at me, you know, I can do all this stuff, and you know, don't you think it's great or whatever. I'm not trying to get thousands of likes on Facebook, you know. I'm trying to do something, a mission to try and find myself. So I realized in the end, like, you know, it's okay to get some blah blah cars, it's okay to get a lift, it's okay to get trains and things, you know. I'm not losing face. You know, it's like, it's not being weak, it's being sensible. Okay, so let's kind of like cut the rubbish about, you know, trying to break the world record of whatever, and actually just do what you know you need to do, what your soul needs to do, you know. And if that's rest a week, then rest a week, you know, because you know, it's not about being hardcore all the time, you know. Sometimes rest is a good thing, sometimes stopping is a good thing. And of course, the more you rest, the more you can enjoy, you know, your waking time. So my plan is to try and find a balance within this way of life. I'm not saying I will stick with it, it's a transition, you know, but having reached some kind of comfort level within it, where you know where you what you're doing, you feel confident. And you know, and I wanted to say that I really recommend doing this. This is why I wanted to start this video, actually, was that, you know, for those of you who feel like you want to travel and just kind of like live in a tent like I am, and maybe you busk play guitar to get your money, or you know, I don't know what you do to get your money, but you know, if you're questioning whether to try it or not, like, I still feel like do it, you know, do it, because if you've got no ties, you've got no family, whatever, do it before you get older and you know you're too knackered to do it or whatever, you know. um you know, be brave and do it, because it's especially if you like cycling or whatever, you know, because that's one of the better ways to travel like this, you know, to travel, uh, you know, I mean, to do this in general, it's hardcore anyway, so you don't need to be pushing yourself all the time, because it is, you know, it's a big life change, and you're spending days on end, weeks, months, living out in the wild, you know, and you don't know what's going to happen from day to day. You know, you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen with the weather. You know, you don't know so many things, which is the exciting thing about it. You know, and it's healthy to live like that. It's healthy to have something different in your life, and that's why I recommend, you know, if you're thinking about this, to do it, because, and you could document it like I am. You know, it's something to look back at and go, yeah, you know, that was amazing doing that. You know, sort of thing. So I'll just breathe, sort of meditate a sec, just see if anything else comes up that I need to say, sort of thing, you know. And of course, there's the people that you meet along the way, you know. I don't speak Spanish very well, but I've met people speaking a lot of English, you know. So that's been interesting, talking to various different people, and you don't know what's going to happen, who you're going to meet, you know. It's definitely recommended as well if you're a musician, because, you know, it's a good busking, and that is a sure way to get your confidence up, you know. I'm going to meditate after this. I'll probably end up falling asleep, actually. Another thing is to say about, you know, keeping warm. I mean, I find that the two main cons, or the two main most difficult things about traveling out in the wild and not relying on hostels and, you know, society, is staying warm at night, you know, being cold, and lack of sleep. You know, the lack of sleep are the two big things. You know, I've got this sort of, this inner layer here is this sort of silk thing that's supposed to give you like I don't know, 2 or 3 degrees, maybe a bit more, maybe up to 6 degrees more warmth. I think it was, oh, I can't remember what it's called now, mummy something, cocoon thing, I can't remember. And then there was this this fleece liner thing that I've got here, which goes over the top of that. I'll put the link to that in the video. And then I've got this this fire belly sleeping bag quilt thing, which maybe isn't the best, but it does fair job. I have this little blanket that I've got, which is kind of like a thin, lightweight blanket, and then I've got this other sleeping bag that on the cold nights I'm wrapping myself in the sleeping bag properly, which is encapsulating the whole lot. And then I've got, like, you know, my long johns on underneath my clothes and that, and I am sleeping in my clothes a lot of the time, you know. So that's a fair few layers there, you know. And then I've got this mat, which you might be seeing in the video, probably not. What I've got is I've got a fold-up mat, and I'll just see where I can sort of like get the camera to look at this. I've got this fold-up mat here, and that fold-up mat is good because it's protecting for this blow-up mat here. Now, of course, the blow-up mat keeps you off the ground. You know, this blow-up mat keeps you off the ground, and so does that. But yeah, this layer's good here because it's protecting this from getting punctured. So I think that's really cool, and I like that, because sometimes the ground, you know, sometimes the ground that I'm on is got thorns in it and stuff, you know. I nearly actually lost my fold-up mat as I was like cycling around. You know, I was going really fast, and because what I do is when I've been playing my music on the street, I'll sit on my mat. I fold it up, and it's about that high off the ground, sort of thing. So I'll be sitting on that, you know, just playing my guitar and that. So when I put it back, I didn't put it back in my, you know, my pannier bags properly, you know. And when I was riding along, it must have dropped off, and I must have been like 5 minutes away from where I'd left it, you know. And I started going round the town thinking, shit, where did I leave that, you know? Where did it drop off the bike, you know? And I was thought, oh no, I've lost it, you know. So and the reason I'm saying it like that is because I realised that means a lot to me, and I didn't want to lose it. So I was so excited when I found it again. I was like, yes, I found the bugger, you know. So I'm really glad I found it again, because, you know, it is protecting this mat here. You don't want to get a puncture in your blow-up mat, you know.